The Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
The Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now.
Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.
Well, we're talking to Pat Steward. Bryan Adams, So Happy It Hurts World Tour kicking off, and is going to be hitting Montreal, the Bell Center on September 12th. Tickets go on sale this Friday. Actually, next Friday at evenko.ca. Hitting pretty much every major Canadian city or village you could think of at this point. They're playing everywhere from St. Catharines to Alma to Trois-Rivières, Moncton, Montreal, Toronto, like every one of them.
We're only missing Tuktoyaktuk. That's the only place that they're not hitting.
You're missing Gunnasadauga and Gunnawaga. That's about it. Pat Steward
and Metallica played up there.
Yes, they did. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah.
Tuktoyaktuk.
So what's going on? So Pat, what's the dealio? Like you were you're on the road back with Bryan. Like what happened to Mickey?
Well, first of all, let me just say thanks for having me here.
Yes,
because we sort of set that up and then we derailed ourselves.
Yeah,
yes, we did. But because you were recording with the odds, or you were recording with another band. The odds, right?
Yeah,
that's right. Okay.
Oh wait, we've got two questions going at once. You guys must know my ADD personality.
Yes. Come on, Mitch, get with the program.
I'll throw a few more out there. Anyway, I don't really know. I don't know exactly what's going on in this camp with regards to how Mickey feels about things. He's he's a guy that is has been like an invisible mentor and teacher or something for me, because the stuff I had to take over and master when in 1984, 85, when we got ready for Reckless, he's been an important guy and a figure to me. And over the years, we had maybe 3 or 4 pretty cool little hangouts. So he's a guy I love and respect. Mm-hmm. And, every once in a while, something has come up in the last 5 years. He wasn't available or something, or it was a time of year where they normally don't tour, but I think they kind of Brian's office went, hey, if we can, I don't know if they go, hey, if we can get Pat, we'll do a gig. But if we can get the lineup, then we could do that gig or whatever, a couple of private functions that came up. Right. And so that's just been the odd thing. I mean, I've always been in touch with him since the post-Reckless years. Mm-hmm. Mostly since around 05 when he started making a record called 11. And we started doing some recording. And so since then, if he's in town, I usually see him at the studio, and sometimes I go and record on something. So, sort of a natural move from his end, I think. Mm-hmm. And, like I said, I don't know exactly what's Mickey's thoughts are about everything that's going on. Yeah. And there's stuff going on in the world, right? And people don't want to get out there.
Well, that's what we figured. We thought maybe Mickey was like, pandemic. I don't feel like going out on the road and catching COVID. I'm staying home.
Well, guess what? How many people have said that recently, And that is true. That is true for a lot of people that we probably all know, right? So I don't know, but I'm super happy to, this is what I do. That's my job. I play drums, and I love doing it. And it's no better camp to sort of, in a sense, re-enter or something. Mm-hmm. And it started in November. We went to Las Vegas and did a couple of weeks of shows.
Yeah.
And, and that was an exercise in, I'm filling in a big pair of shoes that for 30 years, these guys have been doing certain things a certain way. So every day it was like, hey, well, let's go over this and let's go over, lots of stuff to go over. And, I've been working hard a lot for the last few months, and on and off with gigs, and then getting ready for this. We've been over here just over a month now. Mm-hmm. We went to Scandinavia and did about 9 shows in 12 days or something. And then we stayed up there and rehearsed for almost a week, because we did the shows recently at the Royal Albert Hall, where we played
the residency at Royal. I mean, how cool!
We did
a
residency, man. It was crazy, and we walked to the gig. It was like a 10-minute walk from the hotel.
Nice.
Wow.
So we did the whole night. We did Cuts Like a Knife, and then we take a break. You have to legally take an intermission there, and then
really,
and then we do the sort of the set that we do, and then a variation on that. And then the next night was Into the Fire, and the next night was Waking Up the Neighbors. So it was big and lots of work for about 3 days. Luckily, I'm glad to have a day off after that. I'll tell you, man.
Yeah, it sounds like a grueling schedule. Jeez, it's
yeah. I mean, it's been 4 weeks, but it feels like 6 or something.
Right. How does it feel to be back on the road, like playing these songs? Was it easy to get back into the groove of it, or did it take a lot, like musically? Did it take a lot of rehearsing on your part?
Well, yeah, that's sort of what I was just saying, was that I have done a lot of work.
But how do you do that? Like, do you take board tapes from like the last couple of shows that they did, or like, are you trying to learn the arrangement, like the endings and stuff? Like, where is the practice?
Yeah, there's some arrangement changes and endings, and there are some live board tapes. MP3s show up in the mail, So like I got some stuff a couple of years ago for a corporate that we did in the summer. That was in like 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I was like, and I had so I'm like learning the album version of 18 Till I Die, but then I listen to the live version, I go, it does a different thing, or this song doesn't do the second verse when we go right to the bridge or something.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I usually listen to it, and I have these little charts that I make just so that it's like a little Bible that I keep. And if I'll go down the road 6 months later and someone might go, hey, what are you doing in the bridge?
Right.
I go, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll pull out my notes. I go, there is 2 bars before the bridge or whatever it is. And for some reason, months and months go by, and sometimes some little habits slip in, and then everyone's on board with it. And then someone might go, why are we going into the bridge too soon or whatever? That's not exactly what's going on. But anyway, so I'll listen to the stuff, and then I make my arrangements, and it's just a reference,
Yeah.
It's just like, here's a little map of what the arrangement is.
Mm-hmm.
Or and then I get a live version, or then we change it. So then I'm like, do I keep 2 versions of the same song? Because that's the original. But so I have I carry around about 3 pounds of paper with all kinds of hieroglyphics on it.
Yeah,
and
because it's funny. I mean, you played "Waking Up the Neighbors" in its entirety. I mean, like "Can't Stop This Thing" we started for years. He was dropping the whole second verse, and it goes into the do like right away.
Is that what the fill does, by the way? See, now I got to research that.
It's the Mutt Lang
No, well, I'll tell you what. That's exactly what we do. We just, I don't know why. Maybe for him, it was just like, I've never heard anyone say that they have a problem with it. It's like, let's do this song, but let's cut that out so we can get to the next song. There's
right.
It might be, I don't know, just wanting to get to the next thing, and let's
Less Waste, More Hits tour with Bryan Adams.
But I'll tell you, man, when I went into, so at the beginning of, or the end of March, I did about 3 weeks. There's a little rehearsal place near where I live, and I worked out a deal with the guy. We're like, no, I want to come in at 8 a.m. and leave at noon. He goes, oh, here, I'll just give you the key, man. He goes, I'm not even up yet. And so I would get up like super early, take my dog out, and then get this little ferry from where I live, and I'd go over to New Westminster, and I would hit this rehearsal place, and the first day I sat down, I went, okay, I feel pretty good about Cuss Like a Knife. Let's just run it. And I just sit and run it. So I got all this stuff in my mind from the 80s when we played a fair bit of that. But there's about 5 songs or something, but I guess around half, that we never played, but I've always liked. Right. What's it going to be? And Don't Leave Me Lonely. And those are 2 songs. And we played them. Mm-hmm. And he recorded it. And he said to me the other day, he goes, man, that stuff we recorded, he goes, it's sounding really good, man. Like everybody played, and it's really tight. I'm going, I got to a point where I went, you know what? It's almost like that album is his Outlandos d'Amour, that first Police album. Because it's kind of rough and ready, even though Cuss Like a Knife is hi-fi for the time. But compared to the other albums, it's like, wow, this is kind of lo-fi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just ran through that and went, okay, well, that's good. And I said, Into the Fire. I started on that, and I go, I know what's going to happen in my brain is there's a song called Native Son, and there's a song called Remembrance Day. And there's something about them that's really similar, but they don't do the same thing. And so that was messing with my mind. And in my sleep, I was like, oh, no, the bridge doesn't come in now,
Yeah.
So I worked on that. And then I sat down the third day, with Waking Up the Neighbors. And I sat at home and I started charting it all out. And I heard 3 songs on there. I'm like, I've never heard this song. There's a song called Depend on Me. There's a song called Not Guilty, which is...
Not Guilty is one of my favorite songs off that record.
Great song.
Man, we started playing it again. Like after we did the Royal Albert, he's like, what else? Should we do anything? And I said, because Keith and I were talking about the guitar part or something. And I said, well, what about Not Guilty? He goes, should we do that tonight? Sure, let's do it. Boom. And then we started playing that the last couple of nights. And, but anyway, so I had quite a bit of work laid out for me on that album, but somehow I wrote my hieroglyphics, but mostly I would just sit down and put the headphones on and do like that's how I learned to play. Was I'd come home from school and I'd put on a whatever album, Doobie Brothers or Led Zeppelin, and I would just learn it in my head. So I sort of got back to that part of playing and learning music, which is really the best. It's like, I know this song because I've played it a lot of times. So, and it's still exciting to play, which is the number one thing.
And of course, you're recreating the Mont Lang program drums from Waking Up the Neighbors anyway. So you have to be robotic in some sense.
I added an extra crash cymbal and I raised everything up about 2 inches because we started playing and I went, oh my God, there's so many 2s and 4s crashes.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, it might be a nightmare out front for the sound man. I was asking him about it last night, but that's the part. Like, especially in Not Guilty, right?
Yeah. Or There Will Never Be Another Tonight. Like, you need that. There will never. You need those crashes.
Yeah. Tanging the hump and hitting the crashes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you get any say in your drum tone, like live? Do you get to tell the front of house guy, like, hey, we need more cannonball in the snare? Like, do you have any control of that?
I just set the drums up and tune them to what I think feels good to play, and is that going to be good for you up front? And he's great. Jody has been mixing this band forever.
Yeah.
Since he and Keith have been playing with Bryan since 1981.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, he was great back in 85. People were like, so what kind of samples you guys using up there? And I'm like, we don't use samples. Those drums are called, at that time I was playing these fiberglass drums made in Vancouver called Milestone.
Oh.
And they have sort of a different sound, but we just had a great front of house guy, like he's really good.
It makes a big difference.
It does.
The team makes a difference.
It's like the fourth Beatle or the fifth band member or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Fifth Beatle, not fourth.
The fifth Beatle.
Yeah.
And just real quick on Into the Fire, playing that in its entirety. How was that for you? Because, now obviously that's the album after Reckless. That's the album when Mickey came back. Was it sort of bittersweet to play it, or was it like, fuck, yeah, I wanted to get my drums on these. I want to hear Another Day with me playing, or Heat of the Night with me playing?
Yeah, I suppose for a time it was bittersweet, but it was tough for me at that time in about 86 for a couple of years. And then, whatever, I knew why that all happened. It was just it was a hard pill to swallow at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew why. And I wasn't going to, get angry and get physical or something like some people do. You hear stories. It's like that happened for a reason. I'm competing with a guy who is the best in North America, especially in 1986. You couldn't turn the radio on in Vancouver without hearing a track that Mickey played on. Mm-hmm. So you're competing with the best. He's got 10 years more experience than you. I look back at it now and I go, fuck it, I kind of held my own okay. I did all right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's kind of cool to now play it in 2022, though. You get a chance to
go back and visit it. Yeah. It might be like those 3 records. Well, actually, and the you Want It, You Got It.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those 4 records are some of the best drum tracks, parts, fills, the stuff that he played on there. It's so good. And Into the Fire might be the last great record of where there's so many great drum fills. As my other drummer friend said, he said, it seems like some of the later records don't contain the iconic drum fills. No. And you're right. Like somebody has it going into the outro of Cuts Like a Knife has it. There's a bunch of stuff on Into the Fire that's, I was playing last night where we've added Rebel back to the show just because it's awesome. It's a great story. Mm-hmm. And, he talks about that. It's to do with his grandparents and going to and coming back from the war, mm-hmm. First and Second World War. And we're in Britain. People get it. They get that, and so
especially in this context these days.
The fills. Anyway, so to play those songs it wasn't problematic at all. It's like honor and we're holding the flag up of this great recording and these great drum tracks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Does that answer it?
Yeah,
it
totally.
Does.
Mickey told us that he recorded those drums for Into the Fire in Brian's kitchen, apparently.
For the he had a house at that time in West Vancouver, and he had it all outfitted. The basement was the SSL board and all that.
Yeah.
And then upstairs in the walls, like it's probably all still there, it's outfitted for to plug in XLRs, right? So it was kind of I don't think they moved it, but it just off the kitchen was a dining room, and it's an old, 100-year-old giant West Vancouver house.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's 100, but and so I went up and we tracked some stuff, and he goes, I'm going to get Mickey to come in and do some songs, like For Sure, Victim of Love and things like that. Like I just couldn't play a song like that at the time without a click track, that slow tempo. And, and then what happened was that he was a free agent. He worked with Hall & Oates forever.
Yeah.
So he'd come into town, he'd do a record with Bryan, and Bryan would ask him to join the band. He's like, why would you quit this big, great job that you have and join up with an indie act that's, although you're great friends and the music's great, you're making a living doing this thing.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was his take. And then Hall & Oates split up. He was out there recording in 86, and he goes, well, Daryl's out on the road with Mike Beard on drums, so I guess I'm available. So that's basically just how that all went,
Just one more question before we get over to gear.
Okay.
You, of course, played on Summer of '69. So a couple of things about that, because first of all, even the drum track, the whole thing is iconic. Is that yours, like from your head? Because I know Jim Vallance, when he writes, he's a drummer. He was the drummer in Prism. He would lay down all the drums. So did you just sort of just copy what he did or emulate what he did? Or did you actually have a freedom to go be Pat and do your own thing?
I would say I got the freedom to be me. And the cool thing about how that happened was that we were at this little facility in North Van where we would rehearse. And then Bob, so I don't know, we're gonna go in on Saturday, and I think it was like a Thursday or something. Bob Clearmountain came to town, and we're gonna go record with him. I don't know who he is, Bryan just goes, "Hey, are you working this weekend with your band?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "Great, because Bob's coming in." I'm like, "Okay, good thing I'm not working." And who's Bob? I didn't know.
Well,
and I thought
it's true.
He was some guy from Vancouver.
All these guys. Idea. All these guys, Mike Fraser, Bob, they were nobodies until Bryan Adams and Motley, Bob Rock, Bob Clare. All these guys
I know Mike,
became something later.
We chat every once in a while. Mike's just a sweetheart dude, and he's been doing amazing work forever. But what I wanted to say was that I sat in a room. I was at an age where I was like, what is the right bass drum part to play in a song? And is that based on what the bass is doing, or because the rhythm guitar is doing this? You know what I mean? Like I have been, since then, I was like 22. Since then, I always think about that. And now that, it's just, experience and hours on the job. Now I understand more. You can just play 1 and 3 and the stuff can move around if you listen to what AC/DC do. And then other people are like, oh, I want you to hit that shot with the rhythm guitar. And they're like, okay, it can go so many ways. So with those guys, I was kind of like, Bryan was like, yeah, we'll play off the top, but you hit a flam and then we're going to start. He had this idea. And then I was like, okay. And then we sort of pieced together that intro, the boom, boom with the kick drum, which was, I heard something the other day and I went, oh, that's just kind of a classic thing. And I go, did we steal from that? Did I steal from that? I don't know. But, we got going and I had some ideas, and Bob, and I'd say, Bob, I go, what should I do? When he goes, when I think back now, I go, what's a kick drum pattern? What should I do there? And he goes, why don't you just do, and then he air drums a thing. And I go, yeah, that seems right. And then, maybe I might've added one note to that or something, because that's kind of straight. And then, because even when we play it, I just sort of, I do those parts, but by the end of it nowadays, I've watched him when Mickey was playing it. I go, oh, well, he's played that song a billion times. So after a while, you kind of stray from the arrangement. But but anyway, I got to work with two of the best producer and the best songwriter. With regards to, I've got some ideas about the song. Does this work? They go, yeah, that's great. So as a young musician writer, those are, to have a peer like that confirm that what you're thinking is a good idea. That helped, And then, Bryan had some ideas and we developed that breakdown fill between the two of us. And I recently was doing some stuff with him, and he's going, well, actually drums was my first instrument. And when I was going home that night, I realized, I go, okay, so that makes sense why those records are so good, is because of he would cut together great performances, great drum fills. It wasn't, oh, that take isn't good, let's do another take. It's do 4 takes, and whichever one has the best fills, I'm going to put those fills on whichever, because that's what people do.
Yeah.
And he was doing that with tape.
Wow.
And sometimes it's most of a take and you go, oh, that intro and that chorus, so those have better fills. So I'm going to cut it from take 7 and put it on take 3 or whatever. Right.
Right.
So was there any of that stuff that was cut live off the floor with like one take sort of thing, or was it really kind of pieced together?
Well, it's always live off the floor with everybody, but I can't speak for things they did with Mickey, and I hope, I think there probably were, but I realized though, even, like with Pro Tools, you know what you can do. It's a copy and paste thing that anyone that operates in that world now. Some people don't. Some people go, I think of Pro Tools as a roll of tape, and I like that. That's a good attitude. It's like, let's do a whole take. When I was recording with Matthew Good back in 2003 and 4, we made a couple of really cool records, and Warren Livesey is his producer, and that's what he said. So we would like do takes, and he would listen to the whole take. He'd go, everything's great here. He goes, you know what? I think the intro on that other take feels better. So I'm just going to put that on this whole take. So we did that. And on that record I did with him, we did there was a couple of first takes, and most of them were like second, maybe third take. Wow. With him. And that's a different artist. But with Brian's got a big, when he made that comment about that drums were his first instrument, I realized he all along has had a vision he has had a plan, like a great producer, Bob Rock. When I work with him, sometimes I'm like, sure, I'll put that drum up, or I'll put this cymbal up, or whatever. Yeah. Because he knows what a Black Beauty is going to sound like at the end of the day, after he adds the strings and all the other instruments. They've got a vision,
It's either going to sound honky or with overtones. It's got to pop through.
What's that now?
I said it's either going to sound honky or tons of overtones. Something's got to bury it in the mix.
Yeah, and those guys have done it so much, they know what to do to get rid of the honk or the whatever it might be.
It's interesting. You listen to, like the "Your Silent Type" and then the "Ja," like that snare sound on like "One Night Love Affair." Like, do you remember what snare you were using?
Well, we always used a Black Beauty.
It was always like a 6.5 by 14.
It is. You know your numbers. Yeah, it's a 6.5 by 14, and it's a brass shell. And then they do this black anodizing on the outside. So it isn't chrome looking, it's black looking. It looks like black chrome. And I use that live. When we started playing in November, I brought down another Ludwig that I like to use. And I realized, I brought the wrong drum. Totally. This is too small. It was 5 inches. So I'm like, no, this music, I realized a couple things in that Vegas show. This music was made with those instruments. Those guys still play the same guitars they recorded with. Why wouldn't you? It's a Stratocaster. So to me, it's like, it needs to be a Black Beauty or something equivalent of big and made. For me, it needs to be made of a metal, brass or steel. And, and even down to, there was a couple cymbals I was using, and I had a couple of pals were out. Brent Fitz is a drummer with Slash. And Eric Singer. Those guys are buddies, and Eric plays with Kiss, and they live in Vegas. And they came and hung out, and we went for coffees after, because that's what Brent does. He goes for coffees. It doesn't matter what time of day.
Right.
And
sounds like me.
And shopping at Zeller's. That's what I remember from Brent.
What's that?
Coffees and shopping at Zeller's. When he came to Montreal one time, he was like, "Take me to the Zeller's. Take me to the Zeller's."
Awesome.
Yeah, he loved the Zeller's.
Yeah, he's a beaut. But those guys made a couple comments about sitting up front. They go, "What's that cymbal you're using over there?" I go, "Oh, it's this thing and it's something I use at home a lot, and I use in the studio a lot." And he goes, "Yeah, that one was, of all the cymbals you have, it was the worst sounding. It didn't cut." I went, "Really?" And then I had this other one that I just threw up, and I've had for a while, but I never really use, because I do a lot of recording, and I like a lot of thinner and darker kind of cymbals.
Right.
And I realized that cymbal there is an 80s sound. I'm playing 80s music. So it was a really cool lesson. I went, okay, I got to have the Black Beauty, and I got to get some more of those cymbals. Yeah. And then I contact Sabian. Sabian is my cymbal company since those days, since 1984. And they go, "Oh, we don't make that anymore." And I'm like, "Oh no."
And then they go, "But we can make you one."
I think they're going to maybe redevelop something like it. But so I have a couple of them, and when they break, I'm going to be crying.
Right.
They're like the perfect symbol for this band. And, you know, I don't know. I've been changing things up. Like I said, I added another crash because we're doing all this Mutt Lange based stuff.
Right.
And it's just, I need to have two crashes. It's not going to work because you hit it, it's flinging around. You're coming around 3 beats later to hit it again, and it's in the wrong angle. So just get more.
And a lot of those 2 and 4 cymbal hits, like they're small cymbals, like 16 or, you know, on the record.
Are you a drummer?
Yeah.
Oh,
well, he's our tech guy. He knows everything.
I currently have, like I was, you know, over the last few years, I go like a night with the odds. I would just use, I got rid of the ride because we don't have ride. I just have a 19 and a 20 or 2 20s or something. Yeah. And with this band, I went, no, like what you said. So at the moment, I've got 2 18s. Yeah, no, the 19 broke. So I got 3 18s and a 20. That's pretty nerdy right there. But
way too big for Bryan Adams music.
It works fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different thing. But I do have this other 20 out here. So I might do some experimenting on the next day here at Soundcheck and just go, what if I do this? How will this work? And, you know, because I kind of like having a little bit bigger than 18, but at the moment I got 3 18s. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Van Halen had a 18, 19, 20, and then another 19. So it was like they were kind of all, but they were always musical. They're always musical though. Like you'd hit it, and like, you know, on the 2 and the 4, he'd hit a certain symbol because of the certain tonality it had. You know. Yeah. It makes sense.
And how about the day I realized Phil Rudd? He has like 9 20-inch 2002s.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
And a lot
they're
of that
all the same size. And I'm like, okay, well that's cool.
And look, I mean, another Mutt Lange record on the 2 and 4. You listen to Hell's Bells at din ups and in ups. He's always hitting the crash with the snare.
That might have been Mutt's thing there too. And there's some really good stuff on that record, or that track especially.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you remember what hi-hats you used on the Reckless album?
Do I remember?
Yeah.
Well, I went in. They rented I remember Brian going, "Hey, what do you need for a kit?" And I told him what, because I knew that Mickey used 3 racks and 2 floors. I went, well, I'm recording the music of this artist, so I'll just do the same. He goes, can you handle that? That's a lot of toms. I go, yeah, but yeah. I just lied. I just said, yeah, I can handle that. And I had been practicing at home I put a kit together and added another tom, and I had enough to do it. So I've been practicing on it. So we just rented that from a drum shop in Vancouver called Drums Only. And Ray Ayotte of Ayotte Drums. And then and I think they just rented a bunch of cymbals. I mean, I had cymbals, and in those days I don't know, I had I wasn't, you know, I had one of the earliest you know, when Sabian came out in 81 or something, I bought one of the ride cymbals in 81 or 82. And I had a couple Zildjians from my high school days. So I think we just rented a bunch of stuff. And I couldn't tell you what hats. They were 14-inch Zildjians for sure.
Yeah. I can't remember because I think I asked Mickey if he remembered too, and he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, pretty much like all the stuff was rented and whatever. But a lot of the
he would show up to Vancouver and they would just do the same thing and rent a kit, right?
Yeah. But it's interesting because the record, I mean, you listen to the drum tracks and they kind of sound pretty similar to this. So it's like if it was a different kit or not, I can't tell the difference.
No, you know what? In fact, I remember I went down. And I had been jamming with those guys. And then Keith one night said, why don't you come by? We're down here recording. So I went in and I sat down in the front, but in front of the console, which is almost like at a different floor level. Mm-hmm. So, and I was really sort of intimidated to be there. And I knew Keith and Brian, but I realized, okay, Brian's busy. He's not going to talk to me. And they had recorded somebody, and Mickey was out on the floor, and they were just overdubbing, trying out different fills, those fills that you know on the album.
Yeah.
And he was playing like way over the bar line and really, really super hip shit. I couldn't believe how good it sounded. Mm. I'd never heard anything like that in my life. And I'm sort of sitting below the speakers and just like freaking out, but I'm completely alone and I got to be quiet. It was a very odd moment, and he's out there playing, and I'm going, this is a guy that is kind of an idol, and listen to him play, and he's playing shit over the line, and Clear Mountain's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. That's too jazzy, you know, but you know what I mean? Like over the bar line and coming out on beat 2.5 or 3 of the following bar instead of coming out on down on the 1, you know, but as a drummer and a musician, I'm going, oh my God, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
But they very likely rented the same kit. That was like March or something, or April. So in June, we went back in there, and that when I cut the tracks, and we probably very likely used the same kit.
Mm-hmm.
And they always used Ludwig. Bob Clearmountain preferred the Ludwig bass drum, and in those days that was a pretty dominant brand name still.
Yeah.
So so they just used that, and Bob traveled with. He had a Black Beauty 6.5, and I think what he did was he put it in a case, and he just fucking threw it on with his luggage. And he'd go pick up his suitcase and go, here it comes, just bang. And then maybe he probably put it up above his seat. But I feel like somebody told me that he threw it in with his luggage. So he had that, and that's what we recorded with, was a Black Beauty.
That's kind of hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Clairmount just has the reckless Black Beauty in his carry-on.
Yeah.
But
Well,
let me just
Reckless,
ask you that.
and then you know what album he did after that? And if you want to hear some similar sounds, is I think it was right after he did Reckless. There could be something, but the album I'm referring to is Simple Minds' Once Upon a Time. Right? Alive and Kicking.
Yeah.
It's the same snare drum. It's the same engineer. I don't know where they recorded it, but Mel Gaynor was the drummer, and he's a badass. And man, you listen to the drum tracks on that record are amazing. So that album was almost like a precursor to the sounds of Into the Fire.
Wow. I'm going to check that out.
Let me just, you mentioned that they would say that Mickey's too jazzy in some parts. Is that why they gave you the harder rock songs like Summer of '69, Kids Wanna Rock, and One Night Love Affair? Did they sort of say, ooh, we need a guy who hits harder. Let's get Pat to do these?
Well, that's another topic. Let me just address the jazz word. That was Clearmountain's word for if you're doing something that's just a little too hip for pop music. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a little too musical.
But I mean,
so that's all I mean. And I learned recently with Brian, we were just out going to get some lunch, and he had said, I learned new stuff I didn't even know after all these years. He said, yeah, we recorded all that record. And then his manager, Bruce, said, he goes, where's the rock?
Right.
Something along those lines. And he went, huh. And I think he took that actual, verbatim, with, Kids Wanna Rock. He would have said something funny like that because he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Right.
And he, and then from that, I think he got together with Jim and they wrote another song. And then we had been jamming, and they, I think he cut Summer '69 with Mickey, but he said after we had been playing a little bit together, I thought, you know what, I need to give this song another shot.
Right.
Let's see, because he said he wasn't feeling it. It wasn't quite there yet.
Right.
And then so he's like, well, I gotta record Kids Wanna Rock, and I'm gonna recut that song. And then he went, you know what, let's recut One Night Love Affair too. So and I think he's done that for years. Where for example, on the album 11, I think that both Mickey and I and Jim Valance are on that record. And he probably, he basically went, what's the best version of this song? It's like, and from that record, I realized why when we would buy records, you go, Steely Dan have Jet Porcaro on some songs, and they got Bernard Purdie on some songs. You go, well, he's the better guy for that kind of feel.
Right.
Right.
So I think that's sort of, and I think, Brian was probably even doing that back at Reckless. He went, okay, I got two versions of this song. Which is the best version that's going to be the best thing for this record?
Well,
and I think that's what happened.
I think that's what you got to
For
do.
me,
Right?
I like that. Whatever. What's that?
I think that's what you got to do, right? I mean, like you take one drummer and then, you try out the computer programming these days. It doesn't work. All right, well, let's call up Paul Lime and put that country swang on it, or you call up Pat Stewart and you get the track.
Yeah, and that's not to disparage anybody. Sometimes you need those flourishes, and you need that sort of that. It's like talking about Peter Criss and Eric Carr. Peter Criss is more, or Steven Adler and Matt Sorm. They're more musical, more out there, and then you need a guy just comes in with the hard hands and just bashes it out, and that's fine. And Kids Wanna Rock turned out fine.
Yeah,
my favorite song. So.
Which one? Oh, Kids Wanna Rock.
Kids Wanna Rock. I've always loved that.
It's come out a couple times lately.
Yeah, I'm always disappointed when that's not played live. I got to tell you, I go to a show and they go, "They didn't do fucking Kids Wanna Rock." God damn it.
Well, get up front. at the next show and make sure when the request time comes in, because people have been throwing it out there. You know, and like he did it one night. We were, you know, a few weeks ago in Scandinavia somewhere, and you know, he takes near the end of the show, he does a thing with taking requests, you know, because there's so many songs that people want to hear, right? And then so now that we've done all the Mutt Lange shit, people can say, "Oh, I thought I died on the head." Okay, boom, we know it.
Yeah.
So it sounds good. You know, we did it a couple times earlier in the year, and I was like, "Oh my god, luckily somebody said it at soundcheck. I had a quick listen, I didn't intimately know the song. And then we played it that night. We played like a, you know, intro, verse, and chorus or whatever, you know? So anyway, but with Kids Want to Rock, it gets the whole treatment. Like, where are you going to stop? You could stop after the first chorus, but why would you?
Right. That's it. Yeah.
Plus, it's a 2-minute song. I mean, you can't really cut a 2-minute song.
Yeah. The next show,
the tempo he called that night, it was about 1.5 minutes.
Jeez, super fast.
It was blistering.
It's the punk version. It's the punk version.
Yeah. And he loved it. He's like, "Oh, that was fucking great." And I'm going, like, when someone calls a song that you know, and you go, "Okay, we're going to require me to do these things," because that's what I do in that song. But I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like early in the tour. Your arms aren't 100, you know, a bunch of shows in, your arms start to kind of pump out." And because you're fucking rocking hard every night, or I do. So anyway, the night we did that it was pretty funny, and it was just blistering, man.
I'm trying to think, Mitch, like it's not really a random song. I'd request something super, super random out of the blue. I'd be like, "I want to be your underwear," like something like that random.
Right.
I would love for him to play Diana, but I mean, he has sworn that one off because of what happened, the tragedy. So, which is understandable.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought about that song last week. I hadn't asked about it or anything, but.
Well, maybe he's reconsidered in the last 5 years, but there was a time where he didn't want to play it out of respect for
Diana. For sure. No, he hasn't mentioned anything about it. I'm saying I was thinking about it.
Right.
It's wondering if that's going to come up. Because it's a great track when it plays on the radio. You know, for years, even when I'm driving around, even before now, when I'm driving in Vancouver, there's certain songs like I tell him. I was driving down to meet him one day, and for a recording or something, I said, "Man, I just heard Diana on the radio." And it's so funny because I'm driving down here to meet you and do this. He goes, "Oh yeah, how'd it sound?" I go, "It sounded good."
Sounds amazing.
And the guitar solos, you know, it's always.
Yeah.
All right, two questions real quick here.
Okay.
The Royal Albert Hall shows, they were album shows, as we've said and talked about. Recorded for or recorded to be released, because I want to get my hands on those.
I hope so. I have no idea.
No, right.
I don't quite know, because I know he does do some re-records, and I thought, and he was talking about something the other day. I go, "Oh, is this going to be part of that?" He goes, or the engineer that's working on it. He goes, "No, it's not that, but I don't know what it's for." Man. So, you know, posterity, we recorded it live in Royal Albert Hall. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So, and video crew and stuff too. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen, because
go ahead.
The industry, right? I just had this chat with Keith before I was talking to you. It's like, it comes up at least, if not every day, every couple of days. We're just talking about, like, we're all guys that came up at a time when there were record deals, and there was radio, and your music got played on the radio, and there was videos and all that stuff, which is, those things do exist, but you have to be a new young artist. Yeah. There are deals still going on, but it's just everything's way different, man.
Yeah. TikTok really exclusive.
So I made a DVD. We're going to sell it at our merch booth. Maybe someone should just be bold and just start doing that. And the worst thing that's going to happen, people are going to go, "What the fuck is this guy thinking?" But maybe that would be fun.
Yeah.
Maybe people will buy it. You know?
You mentioned re-records. Earlier this month, he released classics on iTunes and some of the streaming services with Run to You and a couple of the other songs redone. Were you part of those re-recordings?
Well, I did a couple. I did something. I don't know if it's. You know what's funny? I don't even know what's going on, and then someone will post something.
Yeah.
I went on your Instagram page earlier, and I saw that thing, and I go, oh, well, where did Bryan post that? And then another guy from Halifax just posted the ad for the Canadian dates. Mm-hmm. So with regards to lots of things and these classics released, I don't even know what's on there. So
yeah, well, he put out they did Summer of '69, Everything I Do It For You, Heaven, Run to You, Please Forgive Me, Straight from the Heart, Hiding from Love, and Teacher. So he put it out 8 songs. It's called Classic. It's on all the streaming services, and they're all basically re-records.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I played on Summer '69. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But he's been so into playing drums, he's just going in there and whatever it takes for him to do it. You know, he can cover it. He can play the drum. I mean, he said, "Oh my God, I recorded." He said something about Cuts Like a Knife, I think. I went, "Oh, you did that?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh my God, my hat's off to you guys. That was so freaking hard, and all that fancy hi-hat stuff." Yeah, you know.
So it's probably Bryan playing the drums on these re-records then.
Yeah, I just heard the list of songs that you read off. I'm pissed off I didn't get to play on them. I love Teacher.
Yeah, and Hiding from Love, the 2022 version sounds great because, you know, the original version has that I'm a teenager Bryan Adams voice, and the new version has his I'm Bryan Adams voice, and it's just like, that gravel's there. It's beautiful.
We did the other night. We did Remember. We've done Remember a couple of times. There's another one we did. I think we did Coming Home.
Wow.
We did some randoms, up in Scandinavia. Somebody like, no, you know.
We're going to get the random stuff in Montreal when you come here in September. Sign me up.
I hope so.
Sign me up for Hiding from Love. Sign me up for Teacher. Let's go.
I want to be your underwear. Come on.
Yeah, let's go. Bring it on. Talk to me about that tour. Are you going to be part of the Canadian tour that's coming up? I mean, it's extensive.
Yeah.
That is great.
Yeah, I'm stoked for it. We're just keeping on out here. I mean, you know, it's amazing that we're able to be doing this and that we're out here. And, you know, it's weird up in Scandinavia. It's like I wore masks all the way over. And then after about a day or so of being there, I'm like, there's nobody sick there and nobody's wearing masks.
Right. Yeah.
It's a different world up there.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere is a little bit different.
Yeah, as somebody says to me, there's no COVID outside of Canada. There's no COVID. There's no COVID in England. There's no COVID there.
Well, there certainly is in the U.S. and there's something going on in China right now, isn't there?
Yeah. We got monkey chicken pox over here going. All kinds of shit happening.
I saw something about monkey something or other, but it's not related.
It's just like
it's monkey pox.
Monkeypox.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
God.
And it's gross because it's like all these little boils that cover your entire body, and it's like, oh yeah. I'll do the COVID, but I'm not doing the monkeypox. No. I don't do boils.
COVID.
I'll do, if I have a choice, I'll take COVID over monkeypox. You mentioned Keith Scott. We got to wrap up in a second, but Keith Scott, one of the greatest guitarists ever, never makes a list of great guitarists because he's not Eddie Van Halen, he's not Yngwie Malmsteen, he's not flashy. But man, he makes every song that he plays on. I mean, he just knows what to play.
I know it's quite something, and we've talked about that before. And if we talked about it 25 years ago, it's the truth, and it never changes. You know, it's just so great. It's great playing with him every night and listening to it. And you know what? We've had this chat a couple times this month, but who was Eddie Van Halen's favorite guy?
Michael Schenker. No, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, actually,
who was it?
Some of the same guys that Keith loves, like Alan Holdsworth. But no, we were just talking about it. He goes, man, every time we pull into LA, he'd come down and hang out at the sound check, or our sound man goes, the first time that he came to see them, it was in the 90s, I think. And he said, I'm going, you're telling me you're doing your job and Eddie came and stood with you at the board. He goes, yeah. And he's fucking talking to me the whole time. Oh, hey, can you give me headphones? I just want to listen to Keith. And he's got headphones on. He listens to Keith Scott all night.
Wow.
You know, that's Eddie. That's
so Keith
amazing.
Scott was Eddie Van Halen's favorite guitarist.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it in print somewhere a couple times, you know. Mm-hmm. It's come up. And I think it was something like, you know, around the time of his passing, they were talking. Somebody wrote an article about how there was the first time he was interviewed. Well, not the first time. One of the times he was interviewed in Guitar Player, you know, one of those magazines. And he just didn't want to, he just wanted to talk about certain things. And they were going, well, what about this? You know, they're always, you guys, no. They're like, come on, they want an answer on that topic, right? And he goes, oh, God, I don't know. Okay, the guy, the Bryan Adams guy. I like that guy. He's great. You know, because you probably been listening to it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, how could you miss it? It was on the radio, right?
We got to interview Keith and ask him about that and see if he ever had that conversation with Ed.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be great.
Yeah,
of course.
I know
he's a Boston Bruins fan. I mean, that's an issue.
Yeah, well, there you go. You guys can have that chat. Yeah,
but Pat,
like when we were in 2011 up against Boston, and for him and guys of a certain era, like back in when we first got the Canucks, I remember I just in my family sports wasn't a big thing, so I didn't really know much about it. But I do recall that out west, it was like you're either Bruins or if there was this new team called the Canucks, and people were all for the Bruins, and he's been that guy forever. So when, he's like bittersweet, he's like, yeah, Vancouver's my town, but the Bruins are my boys, and they just kicked Vancouver's ass,
I have such a disdain for the Bruins. Oh, man. In my village, like our local hockey teams, I don't know what it is. There's like an obsession with the Boston Bruins here. And like even our local, like the Gunawaga Mohawks, it's black and white. They got like the bear. It's like the whole thing. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah. They're obsessed with it. Yeah. But it's because we're right in Montreal, like, we're 50 minutes from downtown. It's like it's Habs versus Bruins, but like hardcore in my town.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And if you live out there, like my friend Rob Baker, right, from the hip, when their son Boris, well, he's a rocker now. He's got a band. And I remember when he was growing up, it's like I learned from him. Well, actually, he was into the Canucks because he liked Roberto Luongo because he was a goalie. Mm-hmm. But I realized if you live in that part of Canada, it's a mixed bag. You're either into not the Leafs at all, maybe Ottawa, or else Montreal.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be. Just real quick, the odds, of course, are nominated for Best New Group, nominated for Best Rock Album, Songwriter of the Year, Group of the Year, Best Video, all these Juno Award nominations over the year. You're currently working on a new album. When does that come out? When do we hear it? When do we get the odds music?
I'm not sure exactly because a couple things changed. There was this deal that was coming together that looked really good. It was a couple of guys that they knew us, and they were from like one guy worked at EMI, one guy had been at Universal, and they were putting this label together. I forget what it's called. It's still happening, and they've got bands, 90s bands on there, right? Right. And we made this record. It's been done for over a year, and something fell through with that deal. I've been busy with a whole bunch of other things, so I haven't found out the exact story when that album's coming up, but it's it's on its way, and it's pretty great. We're pleased with it. It's like some of it may be one of the best albums we've made. Right. Although it's hard to say that, right? Because you're biased to what you're doing right now. A fan would say, no, the best album happened in 1995 because of everything that was going on, like you wrote these pop songs. Now we're older gentlemen, and the things we're writing about might be different, even though that band never wrote about chicks and rocking and shit like that, But
now it's AARP and brand for breakfast. It's great. It's terrific.
Yeah, right. So, but anyway, it's on its way. I'll when I get some info, I'll email you and I'll let you know.
Yeah, perfect. That'd be awesome.
And, yeah,
there you go.
Cool.
So, well, good. I'm glad when did we talk last? It was like 2017, I think.
2017 or 2018, and we were going to do a part 2, and then we all got derailed, and of course COVID knocked us all out. There was nothing to talk about.
Yeah, so it was good. I know. I was just going through. I was trying to find the Zoom thing from earlier. Mm-hmm. Even though I did put it in my calendar, but I was going, I think there's a password I need. So I was trying to find it. I was going through all these emails from both of you guys, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, I think it was back in November. You were like, because I'm not sure why. Maybe because I made an appearance on Instagram through the Adams shows. I don't know.
Might have been.
But all of a sudden you contacted me, which was awesome.
Well, I think I saw you in the in one of the videos that you guys shot at the Wynn backstage. I was like, hey, is that Pat on drums?
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to finish with this because this always gets me. Kerrang! Magazine, which of course is a heavy metal magazine out of the UK.
Yeah.
Voted the Reckless album as one of the greatest heavy metal albums of all time. And when you look at the charts from 85 and 86, you'll see Reckless, Pat Benatar in the heavy metal charts. And
that's weird.
When you look at it now, people go, oh, what was that? But back then, if it had a loud guitar and a loud drum, it was heavy metal. I mean,
Plus the metal from back in those days, like 83, 84, Judas Priest and that stuff. It's just kind of like rock now.
Well, it is.
But at the time, it's kind of interesting. Well, I recall we were over here for the Tina Turner, the tour with her.
Yeah.
And we got over, we did 2 shows in up in Sweden in the middle of February. It's just a freaking igloo. And then we had to went to London, did Top of the Pops or something. And then the next day flew, because there was 2 days off. And so we flew back up to join the tour. And I remember there was this young dude from Kerrang magazine traveling with us, and he was talking to Bryan and blah, blah, blah. So that's probably where all that came from. Wow. But why would you say heavy metal? It's so bizarre.
Well, every so often I post the charts from back then, and you look at the top 10, and it's Pat Benatar, Heart, Bryan, and it's the heavy metal chart, and you're looking at this going, man, that was a weird definition of metal back then.
Yeah, but you also got to remember, to the kids it was heavy, it was rock, but then to the adults it was like, oh, that heavy metal rock music the kids are listening to.
Yeah. Now you look at it and you go, that doesn't sound like Behemoth to me. I'm sorry. Yeah. No, it's not. Well,
I told my grandmother a while ago, I was like, I'm interviewing the drummer for Bryan Adams. She's like, oh, is that heavy metal music?
So, I hope they did say that.
So there you go.
There you go.
September 12th at the Bell Center in Montreal. Tickets go on sale on Friday, May 27th. You get them at evenko.ca. Pat Stewart, welcome back to the show. You're welcome back anytime. This was awesome. Love talking drums.
All right, man. Good to talk with both of you guys. Good to talk to some Canadians.
Yeah.
And we'll stay in touch, and I look forward to meeting up with you guys in person or something.
The Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
The Mitch Lafon and Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Catch up on past interviews and episodes on demand now.
Subscribe so you don't miss any of it.